It's that time of year when you know fall's here by the crisp air and the need for some good comfort food. So I'm going to show you how to make my favorite. This is a chicken pot pie. It is flaky, creamy, and it is so easy to make on a cold fall night. So the first thing you're going to need for a good chicken pot pie is chicken. I've shown you this is my favorite method, but just get a rotisserie chicken from the supermarket, pull it apart. It'll come off in great bite-sized pieces, which is first off great, and second off, you could then use that actual bones and chicken carcass to make your chicken stock, which is also going to be great for this recipe. We're also going to need an onion. We're going to dice it fairly small so it kind of blends into the sauce well, and then we're going to need carrots. I'm going to try to do fairly small cuts of these because you want them to cook through and not be too hard. The bigger the pieces, the less they're going to cook. You could add celery into this if you want, but I don't think celery is necessary in a chicken pot pie. There will be some peas at the end also, but celery just doesn't make sense to me in this dish. I think it adds nothing. Now, to start the actual process of making the filling for the chicken pot pie, we are going to add 6 tablespoons of butter. This will also be the base of a roux for the sauce, but first we're going to cook the carrots in it. So once it's melted down, mostly, you could wait a little bit longer. I'm also using salted butter here. I think it just helps to get salt into this dish from the beginning. It really needs a good amount of salt to carry through the full dish. You could use unsalted if you want, totally fine, but I think salted is beneficial. But we're going to throw the carrots in, and we're going to let them cook for probably 4 or 5 minutes until they start to become a little bit soft. They're still going to be very hard at this point, but you're just helping them cook because they're going to need every minute of this time to not be super hard. And after that 4 to 5 minutes, we're going to throw in the onions. These will cook much quicker, so cook it for another 2 or 3 minutes, maybe 4 or 5 most if you really want to start breaking them down. And then once you do that and everything's nice and pre-cooked, we're going to add that flour. This is 1/3 of a cup with a little bit extra added just to make sure everything's thick enough. And we're going to make that roux. Mix that in and let this cook for 4 or 5 minutes, really continuously mixing it. You want to cook that raw flour taste out. If you don't, it will ruin the rest of this dish. So let that go for 4 or 5 minutes. And there's that chicken stock I made from my rotisserie chicken. If you want to make your life simpler and use box, I don't think you'll cause this dish to be significantly worse, but it is very easy to just boil that chicken and make great chicken stock. So check out that video, learn how to do it, and I think it'll be worth your time. But we're going to add in 2.5 cups of chicken stock, but we're going to do it in half. So that was the first cup and a quarter there. We're going to let that kind of come together. You're going to see within a minute or two it's going to become very thick. Right off the bat, I'm going to let this come up to a tiny little baby simmer. I don't want to boil it, and then we're going to add that other 1.5 cups right in, mix that together. You can get away here with a little extra liquid if you want and just cook it off. I like my chicken pot pies a little more on the liquidy side. I don't want them to be dry, so you could kind of adjust this to however you like it, but we're going to salt it at this point, keep tasting it for seasoning, and I'm going to use white pepper. Black pepper would be totally fine in this dish, but I think the white pepper gives it a little more refined taste. It's not as right on the palate, but you get it a little later, and I think it works great for something like this. And then we're going to add just about 1/4 cup of cream. Not a lot. This is just to really make sure you get a nice, creamy, delicious sauce. You can totally omit the cream if you want to not add it. It won't really change it. I'm going to bring this up to a very small boil. Once you see those little bubbles popping out, that's how we'll know how thick this is also. And then we're going to start to add that chicken in. I'm basically use 1 full chicken's worth to make a skillet-sized chicken pot pie. You really want a packet full of chicken. That's what we're all here for. Now I'm going to kill the heat and add in the frozen peas. All I did was rinse them quickly. I think non-rinsed frozen peas kind of overwhelm a dish with that pea flavor, so just give them a little rinse and it'll kind of make them a little more mellow in this dish. It will still taste like peas. If you don't like that, just forget about them. And now we're going to take that out. We're going to pour it into a separate dish, any vessel that's large enough to hold it, because you want this to cool down now before putting it in the pie crust. If you put the steaming hot filling in that pie crust right away, you will melt it and it will ruin your dish, so do not do that. Just to help this, I filled my sink with some icy water and I'm just mixing it in here. It will really help this cool down quickly. If you want to just throw this in the fridge and wait an hour, that's also fine, but this is a much more efficient way to do it. Like I said, I'm going to cook this in my skillet, so we are going to just really butter this up, grease it up real well. You don't want anything sticking. This will just really help you in the end result of getting that crust out. And speaking of the crust, I think most home chefs don't want to make their own pie crust, so I'm going to use this Pillsbury. Comes 2 in a pack, which is perfect. You get the bottom and the top. You could also not use a bottom pie crust, but it comes nicely rolled. It's already round, and it will fit this skillet perfectly. I ripped it a little bit unfolding it. It's not the end of the world, but pie crust is not difficult to make. You really just need flour, butter, and cold water, but I don't think it's worth it. Most home chefs are not going to do it, so I don't want to show you guys how to do it. I don't think it's realistic for everybody, but just use a very nice, good quality store pie crust, which is what this is. Everyone online raves about the Pillsbury one, and I think you'll be happy with the results. Now, after that filling has cooled down enough, I'm going to throw it in. It should fill this skillet, basically to the top. You don't want to overfill it where it's going to be busting through the pie crust as it cooks, but I leave a little gap around the outside, and that's as much as I want to fill this. And then go ahead and throw that in the fridge for the next 15-20 minutes just to make sure it all stays nice and cool before we're cooking. And I'm going to roll out that top pie crust. Throwing a little flour down will help it not stick to your cutting board, and then we're just going to give it a little bit of a roll. I want it a little larger than the bottom one was, just to be safe. I'm going to wipe that flour off, though, because I don't want too much of that sitting on the pot pie. But we're going to tuck this around kind of the outside of that bottom one. You'll see in a second. I didn't do a great job with it, but you do want it a little bit bigger. Once it's ready, we're going to pull that pot pie from the oven, and now we're going to lay this over. The goal here normally is to make nice little crimped edges. I don't have that skill, and I think most home chefs don't. So we're just going to try to tuck the top one in behind and under the bottom one. That will give you a nice firm edge to make sure nothing spills out. It'll kind of give you a crust also. It won't be that nice crimped pie looking thing that you're looking for, but as you can see here, there's a wall. There's enough of a layer around the outside that when you make a nice cut pie shape, it will look like a slice. You don't need to go crazy with it. Just make sure it's nice and sealed. We're going to make a little bit of an egg wash right now. It's just 1 egg yolk and a tablespoon of cold water. Mix that together, and we're going to paint that over the top of the pot pie before we cook it, which is what we're going to do right here. I'm going to use that full egg yolk to do it. If you want to top it with a little bit of like salt, maybe a little bit of rosemary or thyme, anything else that you like on a pot pie, go ahead. I'm just going to do the egg wash and a tiny little bit of salt. To help make sure this doesn't explode or overflow while it's cooking, we're going to cut some vent holes in the top. I cut 4, you could get away with 2, but this will make sure that your filling doesn't overflow. And once you do that, I'm going to throw this onto a baking sheet, and we're going to go into the oven at 400 degrees for right around 45 minutes or until it is perfect and golden brown. After 45 minutes is exactly what you're looking for here. You can see where I made the vent holes. I kind of created a seam, but that's totally fine. I kind of quarter rotated this every 10-15 minutes also to make sure that it evenly cooked. Ovens, you'll bounce off that back wall a little bit, but that's what you're looking for. Nice, even. You could see as bad as the outside looked while I was folding it, it's created kind of a nice pie crust. It'll be good enough for this chicken pot pie. Let this sit and rest for about 15-20 minutes. I'm going to dive in a little earlier because I like it to be a little looser, but you'll see how it sets up over time. There's also no real great way to dive into this right away. Spatula, whatever you want to use. I'm going to use an offset spatula and just throw that into a bowl. You can see the insides are still a little bit loose at this point, but I love that. It's not watery, but it's creamy, it's delicious, and it's not dry. That's the most important part. Scoop out any extra filling you want. These first few pieces, you're going to need to scoop it out, but you can see it's starting to hold its form. After I cut another piece off and waited about another 5-10 minutes, you can see here it's perfect. It's not too loose. It's holding its shape beautifully, and that's exactly what you're looking for. The nice thing about this recipe too is you have so many abilities to add whatever you want to make it kind of your own. It obviously does not look super delicious in a bowl for a thumbnail, but all that matters with this is the taste. And it is beautiful for a fall night. It's warm, it's comforting, it's creamy. You get those veggies, you get the chicken, and most importantly, that flaky crust. Give this a try. It's easier than it looks, trust me.